Okay, guys, welcome to the class. How are you today?
I'm
Hello?
I'm
Hi.
I'm fine.
Good, good. I'm glad you're fine. So as I'm sure you know, you've been in the class before. This is a pay what you can afford class. So you can pay as much or as little as you like for this lesson. Your contribution helps poor families in Hanoi. You can pay via PayPal using the email address on screen, which is ax.english.tutoring@gmail.com. Or if you're in Vietnam, you can scan the QR code to pay directly. All the funds as I receive will be used to support the food, rent, and medical bills for needy families in Hanoi through my charitable campaign, which is called Help Hanoi's Homeless. So thank you so much for your support and participation. So today, what we're going to look at is the on the Stax English master course. We're going to look at stuffed animals. Now, by stuffed animals, we mean you might call them teddy bears or something like that. So we're going to start by watching this video. So I'm just going to play the video through now.
Good morning, Hick. It's Tuesday. So, important inventions are almost always created not by individuals, but by broad collaborations involving lots of people building knowledge and systems. Like Thomas Edison did not invent the light bulb, and it's common these days to hear, well, actually, someone else invented the light bulb. But no, the solution to wrongly worshipping individuals is not to change which individuals you worship. The truth is, no one invented the light bulb. It was invented over many decades of collaboration and competition among many people, and that is almost always what drives human change. But the work individuals do still matters, as do the choices they make, and to explore how both systems and individuals can matter at the same time, I would like to introduce you to this lady, Margaret Steiff, who invented the stuffed animal. Sort of. Margaret Steiff was born in 1847 in a small town in southern Germany, and before she was 2 years old, she contracted polio, which paralyzed her legs and also caused profound weakness in her right arm. Margaret and her two sisters went to school until they were teenagers, which was quite uncommon for their time, and then they enrolled in sewing school, which was somewhat less uncommon. Due to her limited use of her right hand, Margaret really struggled with sewing. She would later write that her two sisters were so capable and talented, where I seemed to make every mistake that was possible to make. They gave up hoping that I would produce anything worthwhile with my needle. And it is here that Margaret's life intersects with two much larger trends. First, a musical instrument called the zither was becoming very popular in Europe. Like, this was around the time that Johann Strauss II was writing solos explicitly for the zither. Now, Margaret's muscle weakness made it difficult to play the violin or the piano, but she had a wonderful ear for music, and she could play the zither by bracing her right hand against the instrument. She became a very accomplished zither player and then started teaching zither lessons and used the money from those lessons to purchase the very first sewing machine that her little town in Germany had ever seen. She refashioned the machine so that she could work primarily with her left hand, and then suddenly she could sew despite her disability. At this point, she was in her mid-20s, and Margaret began a successful tailoring business with her sisters, but she loved fashion, and it was a little bit of a bummer just to be like tailoring pants all day long. So she began sewing and selling ready-made clothing, especially these underskirts made with felt, a soft textile that had made its way to Europe via Central Asia. Her clothing became so successful that she eventually opened up a factory and branched out into women's dresses and children's coats, all made out of felt, which was so soft and cuddly and warm. So by now, Margaret is in her early 30s, and to keep track of fashions, she subscribes to all these different magazines and newspapers that print patterns of clothing and other stuff that you can sew. And one day in 1879, she's looking through a magazine and comes across a pattern called Elephant of Cloth. Margaret later wrote, "Felt was the ideal material for this toy, and the filling would be of the finest lamb's wool." She was big on quality, often saying, "Only the best is good enough for children." These initial felt elephants were quite small. They resembled and were often used as pin cushions, and Margaret mostly made them for friends and family. She only sold 8 of them in 1880. But pretty soon she was making more stuffed animals, often working from patterns she would find in magazines. She made donkeys and dogs and lions and bears and even parrots. Again, though, most of these designs were not invented by Margaret. They came from places that published patterns. What Margaret saw was that lots of people lacked the time or the resources or the expertise to make their own stuffed animals, so she would do the work for you, and probably better than you could do it. And soon a stuffed animal from Steiff became a popular children's gift because they were relatively cheap, and also because they were sturdy, especially compared to the porcelain dolls that were the most popular, proper plaything at the time. By 1890, 11 years after she made that first elephant, Margaret Steiff's company was selling over 5,000 stuffed animals per year. She then expanded internationally, and things really took off just after the turn of the 20th century with the introduction of the first Steiff teddy bear. By 1907, when Margaret was 60, her company employed over 2,000 people and was making over 1 million stuffed animals per year. Margaret died just a couple years later of pneumonia, but the company survived. In fact, over 100 years later, they still make some of the cutest and cuddliest stuffed animals around. Like the rest of us, Margaret Steiff was a product of circumstance. Had her parents lacked the resources to educate their daughters, or had the sewing machine not been invented, or had the zither not become popular, or had she not developed an expertise with felt, or had those magazines not published those animal patterns, she would not today be remembered as the inventor of the stuffed animal. And of course, in all those alternate histories, stuffed animals probably would still have been invented around the same time, just as light bulbs would still exist even if Edison and Tesla never had. Considering the circumstances and systems that drive historical change helps us to understand why those changes occurred, but it is also a window into understanding who ends up in a position to benefit from those changes. Part of what makes the history of stuffed animals so important, I think, is that it's one of the few places where a disabled woman in 19th century Europe could succeed in business. But at the same time, we must make space for the individual choices that also help drive historical change. Margaret Steiff saw the potential of ready-made soft toys for children. She made excellent ones, and as her business grew, she was very careful to hire extremely talented people. She attracted and retained those employees in part by treating them much better than most other businesses at the time. Her tireless focus on quality control ensured that Steiff stuffed animals looked and felt better than their competitors, and her tremendous self-belief helped her to persevere when society and even her friends doubted her ability to become a musician, or to sew, or to run a large corporation. So here's to perseverance and to stuffed animals. Thanks, Margaret. Hank, I'll see you on Friday.
Okay, so quite an interesting video there about the invention of stuffed animals. Now we can read through the transcript here, of course, and we'll see certain words in there like worship or worshipping, collaboration, competition, paralyzed, polio, enrolled, sewing, talented, and many other words as well. And we're going to just have a look and see what these words mean. So what you can do here is read through, and then on the next page we have the vocabulary bank, which shows us the meaning of each of these words. Now, instead of going through these one by one, what I'd like to do is to play a couple of games. So we're going to start off with just a simple, just simply flashcards, okay? So let's see what you know already. I'm going to just get the vocabulary bank ready for you and put that in the chat box so that you can check these words, or you can copy them down if you want to use them later on, or if you want to make a note of them somewhere, because they are very useful words. So let me just pop those in the chat box for you. So there's some. That would be ready. All done. Sorry, I can only do 1,000 words at a time in the chat box. So I have to break the information up. And there we go. So now we'll go through them using the flashcards. So what do we mean by worthwhile? What does worthwhile mean? Yeah, if
I
something
don't.
is worthwhile, what does it mean?
It is like it is worth of investing time and money.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So it's worth your resources, worth your time or energy, or worth your money. So is it worthwhile? We've got some example sentences. Traveling abroad was a worthwhile experience for him despite the difficulties he encountered. The book is challenging to read, but I think you'll find the effort worthwhile. Very good. Let's try this next one. So the next word is worship. So what do we mean by worship?
It is like to adore or to bias somebody.
Yeah,
Like
Worship.
you adore
yeah,
or
to have reverent devotion, honor, and love shown to a deity or an object considered sacred. The nuns devoted their lives to the worship of God. So, yeah, absolutely. What do we mean by trend? What is a trend?
it is like a pattern that people's
Yeah,
like to follow in a particular period of time.
that's exactly right. Yep. So a general course, direction, or tendency. So the trend towards obesity continues in many countries. Studies show that standards of living are on a downward trend, and a trend toward living together before marriage began some decades ago. All right, very good. Next we have, talent. What is talent?
It is like
Talent.
uh, a given ability of to learning or doing something
That's
that
right. Yep.
you have
So kind of a
fun.
natural ability, a natural aptitude for something. So something that you tend to just be quite good at, um, and get better at with practice, but you tend to be good at anyway. So even as a young child, she showed a strong talent for singing. What about struggle? So struggle could be a verb or a noun.
Struggle.
It's like you have to you have face a challenge that
Hmm.
are hard to it is like the
It is
second
hard to.
is the condition of you um running through the challenge.
Yep, that's right. Yep. So the definition here isn't great, the act or instance of struggling, but something that, yeah, something that is a challenge is a struggle. And when you struggle, you are having difficulty getting something done. What about this next word, which is so?
So.
It is like To use thread to
To use a thread, yeah. So a piece of string, usually made from cotton or nylon or something like that.
create a product.
Yeah, so we construct, repair, or attach things together by making stitches with a needle and thread. So she sews her own dresses, or she sewed her own dresses. Next, we have polio. Any idea what polio is?
Polio.
Hmm. Polio is like a disease or
Yes,
a condition of uh, disability.
it's a disease, yeah, and it's one that was the full term there is right there. But polio is a very nasty disease that can cause paralysis. In the case of the video, the woman had paralysis in her legs because she contracted polio. You also get people who are paralyzed from the neck down from it, or people who die from it. And it's not such a common disease now because we have the polio virus, which I believe came around in like the 50s. So not so many people have polio now. Not it doesn't spread very much now because of vaccines, but it was quite common uh, about 70 years ago. What do we mean by the word paralyze? So I just used the word paralyze or paralysis. What does it mean, the verb paralyze?
It's like to stop moving, like
Paralyzed.
you
Yep.
can it is to make you stop uh to control and move your limbs and
Hmm.
your
Yes.
particular organs.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So when you paralyze something, it means that you can no longer move it or it no longer moves. So to render something partly or completely unable to move or feel sensations as by injury or disease. So the damage to her spine paralyzed her body from the neck down, and the disease paralyzed his legs. So it's something that polio can cause is paralysis, or it can paralyze you. What is an invention?
Invention, it is something that you create
Hmm.
new and
Yep.
to it's like something you created to it is like an it is an invent.
Yeah,
It is
okay, so the invention is the noun form. The verb form is invent or inventing if you're using the continuous form. So yes, as you say, it's when you create something new, a new idea, a new product, a new piece of technology, something that doesn't exist before. Now, I'm going to add here very quickly that there's quite a big difference between an invention and a discovery. So an invention is something that you would make yourself, whereas a discovery is something that already existed but we didn't know about. So, for example, penicillin, which is a medicine, an antibiotic that you can eat and you can consume, and it will kill most of the bacteria that will harm you. Um, Penicillin was discovered, so it's always existed, but it was discovered by a scientist and Alexander Fleming, I believe. And then but to make it into the medicine form, to make it into the pill form, that was an invention. So the pill was invented, but the medicine itself was discovered. So it wasn't something that was synthesized in a lab. It was made into a consumable form um, in a laboratory, but the substance itself always existed. Next, we have intersect. What does it mean to intersect?
Intersect.
When things intersect like this.
intersect. It's like Hmm. Intersect is to, oh, it is like to join in at a point, like to meet.
Yeah. So when two things join together like this or cross over, they intersect. So this road intersects the state highway. So it's to cut across or pass through, I should say. Okay. And then we've got explicit. So this has several meanings, but that we may derive from it. But explicit, what does it mean? We've got ex in there, which is Latin for outside.
Explicit.
It is like, I really don't know much about this word.
Well, okay, so explicit means something that is not hidden. So it's pushed onto the outside. So if someone says something explicitly, to use the adverb, it means that they did not mince their words. They said it absolutely directly. So if I say to you, do not open the gate, then I have explicitly said, don't open the gate. Now you could actually have another word, implicit, which is where something is not said directly. So instead of saying, do not open the gate, I might say, it's much better if you keep the gate closed. Or I like to keep the gate closed because I don't want the dog to escape. All right. So I haven't explicitly said it, but I've strongly implied it. It's implicit. So stated fully, clearly, and without equivocation. I gave him explicit instructions, so there should be no mistake. You need you leave too much for the reader to guess at. This paragraph needs to be more explicit. Her refusal was quite explicit and left no hope of her changing her mind. So you might also hear explicit used in the terms of sort of like a movie with an explicit scene in it. So what that normally means is something that's nudity or something like that, because it's not covered up. It's right out there in the open to be seen. So you might see something like a warning before you watch a movie or a TV show. It may contain scenes of an explicit nature or something like that, which will mean it contains graphic nudity. Next we have enroll. And
Enroll.
you can spell this. This will have different spellings, sometimes with two L's, sometimes with one. What does it mean to enroll?
It's like to register.
To register, yeah, yeah. To enlist or sign up someone officially. Next, we have competition.
Competition.
Competition is like, uh, is similarly like a race to,
Yeah, a race is normally a competition, yeah. Um,
it is similarly to a race to, and it's, and it's to point out who is the first to like do it.
mhm. Yeah, so a competition is when people are working to try to win, aren't they? Trying to win. So athletics is particularly appealing for those who enjoy competition. Competition for jobs in the film industry can be fierce, and their daughter and our son are in competition for first place. So it's the act of competing, of fighting to get to the top. You may also have another use of it, which is in business, where you say, if company A and company B sell the same thing, then company A may be the competition for company B. Okay. let's try this next one, which is collaboration. So this is kind of the opposite to competition. What do you think collaboration is? So I'm going to look at you people on the live stream here. Collaboration. So collaborate. Yep. Okay. So collaboration is when people work together to get something done, to achieve something. That's collaboration. When we work together. So let's turn the definition around there. So a cooperative effort by which people or organizations work together to accomplish a common goal or mission. So the collaboration between the schools and the public library has increased the students' use of the library. So it's when two people or two groups are working together. And then we have capable. So
Capable.
capable. What does capable mean? Does anyone have an answer for what capable means? So you guys watching on the live stream. So capable, yep, means able to do something. We can see the word able in there. So having the ability to perform as required, competent. She is a highly capable teacher who accomplishes a great deal with her students. So that's what we mean by capable. All right. Okay, so what we're going to look at next is the game Guess What, which is where we will be looking at different clues to see what the word should be.